Did we make a mistake employing Eric Chelle?
No, I think everybody is saying if we have had this guy earlier, probably we would not have been in the place where we are. You know, remember, Eric Chelle came in at the time when already the team had drifted as part of the qualification. It's already a difficult situation. 4 games played with only how many points? I think is it 3?
Yeah, 3 points.
3 draws, 1 loss. So 4 games played with only 3 points. So out of 12, you have got only 3 points. And Chelle came in, the first match we play, everybody sees the focus. This is where we are going. When Rwanda, the second match against Zimbabwe, everybody knew that day was just not our day. Nothing to do with the coach or what have you. We could have scored 10, 15 goals that day. 42 plays we did in the 18 box. We got the goal, and last minute we gave them the equalizer. It's painful, football, but at least, okay, Eric Chelle did 2 games and get 4 points. Before him, we have done 4 games and got only 3 points.
Sporty greetings and welcome to my channel. Yeah, I have another exclusive interview for you. That was Shehu Dikko, chairman of the National Sports Commission in Nigeria. If you call him the Minister of Sports, you're not wrong, you know, because Shehu Dikko is in charge of everything sports in Nigeria. He was talking about the appointment of Eric Chelle. Look, I asked him straight, do you have any regrets? He said, no, that Eric Chelle is making progress with the Super Eagles, you know, and the football conversation in Nigeria is a very serious one. Brace up. It's a long interview because I wanted to know what's going on with sports in Nigeria. Right after the Ministry of Sports was cancelled, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu brought the National Sports Commission and he told Shehu Dikko and his team, build a sports economy for Nigeria. What are they doing with that mission? Are they making progress? I wanted to know, and I asked Shehu Dikko that question. We talked about the Super Eagles, talk about school sports, grassroots sports in Nigeria, this sports economy. How can they drive it? You know, it's very important. There's something he called the RHINSE project. What is it all about? He told me that we also need to reset, refocus, and relaunch sports in Nigeria. So much in this exclusive interview. Let's go and meet Shehu Dikko. Shehu Dikko, Chairman, National Sports Commission. It's good to have you here with me.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Awesome. It's about 8 months on the job. Is it challenging? Is it interesting?
Yeah, it has always been challenging, especially when you come in and you say you are taking the road less traveled, trying to do things differently, trying to do a reform. It's always very challenging, but it's quite exciting because fundamentally, you know, reform doesn't have to be too much forceful at times. You can reform people by just the body language, the way you act, the way you sell your vision. If everybody adopts it and everybody align with it, everybody wants to run with it, then make it much easier. And that is basically why we have found ourselves. We went into the job and we now found out that some of the most intelligent and very committed people are available in the whole structure. The only thing that is needed is the leadership and the focus, and everybody is aligning. Some of them even are trying to run much faster than what you want to do. So it's challenging, it's easy, but it's exciting. It's something that we want to do. It's something that we are passionate about. It's something that naturally, you know, there's nothing better than for you to get a job that naturally you can do it for free. And now we are getting the chance to do it because we are passionate about it. It's our passion, it's our belief, it's what we feel can be done. And if you are getting the results, you are getting the focus, you are getting the way forward, it makes you very, very happy and more dedicated to getting things done. So it's quite brilliant. And we can never thank President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, enough for finding us worthy to be given this critical assignment at this moment. Over 200 million Nigerians, they are all passionate about sports. So we are actually managing the passion and the happiness of over 200 million people. It's quite challenging, you know, but it's happy about it.
You know, and now that you've mentioned the president, let's talk about that mandate, that objective. It said build a sports economy. Was it a realistic one?
Of course, it's a realistic one. It's happening all over the world. We have left it a very long time. We didn't take this course in the country to say this is what we want to achieve. This is what we want to do with our sport. We have just been doing it as a social aspect, just from top to bottom. Everybody just doing it. Nobody is taking it very, very seriously. That look, this sport is beyond just the game. It's beyond just the activities of the sport. It's much more than that. It's an economy of itself. It's some platform that you can provide jobs, can provide activity, the value chain that you have along the line within the sport industry. So if you start looking at it that way, then you start taking it very, 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 very seriously. The people here where we are, for example, in the UK, if you take their football, how many profit they are declaring from their clubs? Not much. There is billions, some of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenues, but how much profit are they declaring? But they're not seeing it that way. They see it as such that how many jobs this club is creating, what is the contribution to the GDP, the economy, and everything like that. So sport is about wealth distribution. It's a huge economy. The value chain of the businesses around sport that feed around sport, the businesses that sustain themselves within sports are enormous. So if the president say, look, let's start looking at our sport on that aspect also and see it that way. So it's making sports a fundamental key factor of the economy. When they are talking economy, sports should be sitting there. When they are talking security, sports should be sitting there, because you use sports to also distract the youth and get them focused instead of doing the bad things. So sports also, if it's working well, increase the security of the nation. When they are taking labor issues, sports should be there, because sports increase productivity. When people are happy with their sports team, they go to work better, they produce better, economy benefit better. So, when so many things that happens, if sports is working, when you're taking agriculture, even sports should be there.
Yeah. So when Arsenal fans go to work now,
I don't know. and the report shows that even if your sport team is not doing well, if you go to work, you perform, because we are angry, you want to deliver the work.
Yeah, show them how to do it.
If they do well, you also do that. So it's quite, the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is very bold, is very visionary. He does things thinking about the future, not just today. And he believes that with the restructuring of the sports this way, with the kind of support sports is getting, in a couple of years, if we're able to achieve what we want to achieve, to be one of the biggest employers of labor, the biggest in the industry, we have all that potentials, we have all that capabilities. And imagine the kind of PR the sports is giving the country. For example, our sportsmen all over the world dominating. So if we say we want to buy that kind of PR, for example, Osimhen have given Nigeria now in Turkey. Do you know how many billions we can spend to do that? Some years back, Turkey are not.
I know.
Visa restrictions, this. But Osimhen went to Turkey, everything changes. 2 days ago, I saw him even have an audience with the president of Turkey.
Wow.
World sports that can do that for you, break all kind of lines for you, and put your country in a very positive light that you can now take it to build to going forward.
And where do you think we can start building the sports economy? Have you made progress in any way?
Yeah, of course we are making progress across all platforms. It's about having a proper vision. When we get the mandate, we sat down and said, okay, what do you do? Because you can't work without a plan. So we had a plan that we created, we call Renewed Hope Initiative for Nigerian Sports Economy. We're renewing the hope of people to getting that done. And how do you want to deliver that? We say that's what we call the 3 R's. That's the pillars that the reform is being arrested, being benchmarked. The 3 R's means, number one, we have to reset. Secondly, we have to refocus. Thirdly, we have to relaunch. What do you mean by resetting? So we have to change the way we do things, Because for many years, we've been just more concerned about participating in tournaments, the Olympics, the World Cup, to the detriment of the domestic system. So we are more focused on that. Nobody cares about what we have in the domestic system. You can go and gather people from anywhere in the world and take them to a competition. How does that impact on the economy? How does that create value? You create the sports economy by having a proper domestic sports industry.
That's right.
Domestic competitions across all sports. We say we have to go there. So we have now been able to tell people, look, let's move this focus about international competition and everything. Doesn't mean we're not going to participate. We'll participate. But it's not a priority.
That's right.
But because they have to go pari passu. As we're building the domestic, we have to find a place to participate. So we ask all the federations, everybody have to now have a proper domestic structure, proper leagues, proper stuff like that. And we even told them that before you can support you to go to participate in the international competitions, show what you are doing domestically. So if you get the domestic industry working, putting the right investment, putting the right support together and working. That's the first foundation to get the sports economy going. And let me give you an example. If you come to UK now, when last did the UK, England won any big tournament at the Football World Cup? 1966. But they had managed to build the best domestic football league in the world. That have dwarfed every other league. Every player in the world wants to come to play in the Premier League, right? So because it's the industry for them. They're not seeing it as about just going to win the World Cup. They win fine, they don't win. They come back tomorrow and continue their domestic football and count the economy around it. So that's what we said we should do. We have to reset that our thinking to do that. And we are really getting the support in that. Yes, well, Paripasu, we are also building the national competition. If you look at all our federations that have traveled abroad recently to participate in certain competitions, they're all coming out with medals because the focus is train well domestically and then you can go abroad. Secondly, we have to refocus what we are doing, which means we have to be intentional and deliberate. Whatever we want to do, we have to do it the right way. Whatever necessary enablers that is needed to put in place, legislation, investment, infrastructure, everything needs to be put in place so that you can jumpstart this system. Sports cannot grow without the economy to do that. And also, it's a long list of that. And thirdly, we say we have to relaunch our sports. We have to make the sports look positive, look okay, remove all the toxic issues out of it, so that we can get the private sector to come around with it. No private sector want to put their money where there's toxic elements there, there are toxic vibes there. They want to put their money where they can get their brand will get value addition. Not to put their money where their brand will get damaged. So we have to make the sports look positive from the way we conduct ourselves, the way we act, the way we do everything. Has to be positivity, has to be everywhere. So that is basically what we say we are running and to get to economy. And we said to the first thing that we do as a government, what do we do? The government took the first step, so they are putting the investment needed. At least it doesn't mean it's enough, but the government will show the way. If the government started up, then the private sector will follow. So we said we will put the investment into the budget of sports 2025 is quite heavy, targeted more on infrastructure basis. That we can provide the infrastructure needed, provide the rehabilitation of the infrastructures and whatever we need to do. Secondly, declare sports like sports as a national asset. If sports is a national asset, meaning it's supposed to have all the support and all the legislation and all the enablers, whatever is needed to make sport better will be done by the government to do that. And we now have a clear understanding, okay, how do you deliver that? Because when you have this vision, how do you deliver it? We have three projected objectives delivering this. Number one, we have to restructure the commission itself, bring more professionals, bring more experts, support what we have on ground to make us be working more private sector based. Secondly, we have to bring a lot of private sector to come and complement whatever government is doing. Thirdly, we have to restructure the federations to make them more active. Because the federations the sport federations are like the operating officers of the sports. If they succeed, we succeed. They fail, we fail. Because we just provide like the guidance, legislation, and regulatory.
And have we made progress with that restructuring?
They are the ones that have to deliver the sport actually on the level. So they have to also be more professional. So we are working to restructure that as well. And then thirdly, we have to work on the grassroots sports also. But grassroots sports is the enabler where the talent conveyor.
That's right.
So we have to work on the grassroots sports, which is based on school sports. We are all working on that. And then finally, on the reform document, we now said, okay, what is the final outcome that we are expected to achieve? Number one, sports should be a key contributor to the economy. We say we target at least sports should be at least 3% of the GDP in the long term as we are working. Should be very high on contributing to the GDP. Secondly, sports should contribute at least 3 million jobs across the country, across both direct, indirect, and induced, the value chain and everything as a target. Thirdly, we should be at least contributing at least 5%, 10% of the global talent market. Because 200 million people, if we train our people well, we can send them all over the world to dominate sports. You go to America today, NFL, this, that, all the leagues, all football, all over Europe, you see Nigerians everywhere. So we should be producing those talents across all sports that can also dominate the world and be earning revenues. So those foreign exchange that they are earning will come back to Nigeria to be invested in sport, in their families, in the business, in the economy, to do that. And fourthly, sport is also a social aspect. You can't take that out of it.
That's right.
And in Nigeria, there's nothing that binds us together as one people, as one group, as one destiny like sports. Once sports is involved, nobody cares who you are, what you are doing, and stuff like that. So we should also reinforce that, because sports break all our fault lines and make us more focused to deliver on that. Recently concluded National Sport Festival showed that all the athletes that are competing are not from this particular state. Everybody compete for any state.
That's right.
So, and you can see somebody from the state cheering somebody, doesn't care whether the person,
somebody competing against a state to win a medal for another state.
So that's what sports does for us to do that. So this is a vision, and this is what we are now putting together gradually, step by step, everywhere I want to do it. Legislation, we are working on it.
Sounds good.
The revenues, we are working on it. Private sector, we are working on it. And so it's looking very good. And if we stabilize and we continue on this trajectory, the outcome and the positive outcome is quite assured.
Fantastic. I'll come back to the federations, but let me stay with the National Sports Festival since you've mentioned it. Does it have the potential to enable the sports economy?
Of course. Even now, if you talk to the governor of Ogun State, he's talking about sports economy, because they have invested a lot of money in the infrastructure, in the hosting, right? But they are now looking at what have they done to themselves? Do you know how many people that have now gotten jobs, both temporary and permanent, through this sport? Do you know how many businesses now that have gotten revenues and income that they will now reinvest, and their business will take off for life? Do you know how many people make money around this sport festival? That's what we are counting. Even the people that are selling water, selling food, selling everything, they have made enough money now to start a restaurant somewhere to do that. At some point, Adre was finished in the state, because everybody was showing Adre to go to the games. So the whole economic activity at the end of the festival, the day before the festival closed, when we are going to ask some of the people at the back, and some are crying that the game is finishing. That where would the business they are starting already, what will happen? So there's a huge economy. The influx, to have an influx of 15,000 people into your state at one point, and they all come with at least maybe 30,000, 40,000 to spend in your state. That's the economy. That's the legacy of hosting tournaments. And this is what we are saying about it. That is why now every state now have seen the light. Many states are now bidding to host the sport festival. And those infrastructure that has been built, from the sporting infrastructure to other complementary infrastructure, like the hospitals, like the roads that were all repaired because of the festival. It's part of the state. And so the state now have now activated the sports economy. That's why now they're already bidding to host so many other tournaments in the state. For example, in July, we are hosting the African Under-18 and Under-20 Athletics Championship in Ogun State. Another 2,000, 3,000 people, which are all over Africa now, will come in with their dollars to pump it into the state economy. After that, the WAFU Under-17 is on the cards. Even the friendly matches now for the Falcons being played there. So they are making Ogun State a hub for sports activities. So now the work now is to create what we call the sports weekend economy, to make sure they have a proper sporting activities across all sports that can happen every week, that can bring people up their houses. You know, how you count this then? If you now host a football match, for example, and 20,000 people coming, those people all took taxis, or took transport, pay money, stay in a restaurant to eat, buy chewing-gum, buy this. It's all wealth distribution. So if you can suggest that every weekend you can bring out 5,000, 10,000 people out for their houses to the sport venues, economy have already jump started already. Apart from the value chain that produce the equipments and other stuff that work for the sports.
Sounds good. But does the NSC have a monitoring mechanism in place that will enable states to keep the sporting environment busy? Take, for instance, Ogun State and all this infrastructure that they have. What do you guys have in place to charge them to use those, so that...
That's why we are already interfacing with the governor, and I must thank the governor, Dapo Abiodun, for being very accommodating and leading from the front. That's why our job is to not keep telling them this is the way things are done.
That's right.
These are the right things to do, and we help them about it. They didn't go to bid for the African, for example, under 18 or under 20 championship. I was in Egypt, I'm in Algeria for the ANOCA championship.
Yeah.
And there were issue and there were conversation about the next host for the Africa Athletics under 18, 20 championship. I jumped in and said, yes, Nigeria will do it. The moment we called the governor, he was jump onto it as well because he understand what it is. So our job now is to attract these competitions anywhere we see it and send it to the states.
True.
And even some states that are not even feasible still and are hosting, bidding to host other international tournaments. So part of the vision of the RHINSE vision we have, that's the Need Hope Initiative for Nigerian Sports Economy, is to also host as many international competitions as we can across all sports. And we can not have to do it in one state. Nigeria is big enough to take it across all the states because it's part of the issue. When you host those tournaments is when you keep your infrastructure busy and you create the revenues that will come in to make the sports working. But also it's to develop the domestic sporting industry.
That's very important.
If we have our weekend economy for sports where we have the basketball league, the volleyball league, football league is there, athletics. So it keeps everything working. The ecosystem have take off. That's the resetting we say we must do. And we are doing.
We will keep monitoring this RHINSE, project. Sounds good. And let's bring a very important aspect that will make this initiative work. Infrastructure. I see you've been doing quite a number, but let's stay with infrastructure. Even at the National Sports Festival, some of the problems that came out of it were infrastructural issues. How are you approaching to make this? I know it won't just go away one day, but what steps are we taking?
We have a short-term and long-term plan about it. The short-term plan is we as a government, we are investing, get our infrastructure going. We group them into the issue. Abuja National Stadium, we have to bring it back to life properly. The president has made some of the funding available for that. It's the budget, so we'll see how that happens. And we are bringing the experts to come and make it work well. It has become well. How do you put it to light? You say we have to create what we call the sports cities, because sports has to have an ecosystem where it's generating money 24/7. It's not just to build a stadium and a track and a football field. It can't feed itself. You need to have other activities around it. The shopping malls, maybe the hotels, maybe the offices, maybe the residences, the activities, the event centers around it. So we want to take Abuja to make it like a model, like a proof of concept of how the sports city should be run. So we get that done. Like the other infrastructure we have, like in Kaduna, in Ibadan, Bauchi, and Co., the big stadiums, we are working with the state government to work together. We give them back to the stadium. We work together. We bring the private sector and get them back to life. So, okay, the sports economy to do that. Lagos Stadium, for example, we are working with the concessionaire to concession it, who are ready to invest.
Every year we hear about this.
Well, the process is already almost concluded, actually. So who are ready to invest on it and then get it back on track. I've got even proposal with some people who want a piece of it. Even Sporting Lagos, for example, even them have sent us a proposal to take part of the bag to build a new stadium because they wanted to build it landmark when the coastal road has distorted it. So to do that, other people are doing that. So we are even doing piecemeal because that's the only way to do it. It's too big enough to ask somebody to come and put in hundreds of billions to get it done. We can break it to pieces to do that. But we are all working to get that done. And then in the long term, we want to, as part of the legislation we are putting in place, to set up what we call the National Sports Infrastructure and Development and Management Agency. Then to be an agency under the Sports Commission, that agency will be in charge of working with all the subnationals, the state, in developing their sports infrastructure and also managing them well. So because we are in UK today, you can't just come and build a sports infrastructure without a license.
Ever.
Even a gym, you can't set up a gym without somebody giving you a license. So why are we different in the country? So we have to have an agency, that's their job. When you want to build, you come, they look at it, tell you the best way to do it, they learn to the best international standards, the best international standards to do that. And then also, what is the sustainability plan of the facility you are building to do that? So that infrastructure body will be there. And I'm telling you, we are not just doing anything out of the box. Even if you check the National Sports Commission Bill of 1971, the first bill of National Sports Commission that was done in 1971, it has a Federal Stadium Management Board.
Mm.
So 50 years ago, we have something
We
like
had
that.
something in place.
People think ahead because we have somebody have to manage it.
Our problem is implementation.
So that's why we have to have an agency now that will deal with that. That will be managed by experts. That will follow through. That's their job, to follow through, to regulate it, and to make sure that the sports infrastructure across the country are working well, are being used properly, are being right from development stage. They will have to interface with you to make sure that what you are doing can be maintained, can be developed, and can serve the purpose, fit for purpose, And if you have already built it, how do you make it active and everything like that?
Right. I think state governments will key into this.
Yeah, they have to key into it because of the regulation. If you don't do it, if your stadium is not certified, you can't play anything. You become a health. Somebody have to certify it. It's about law. It's about regulations. If it's not certified, you can't use it. If today the stadium people in the UK wake up and say Wembley Stadium is not certified, nobody can play anything there.
Yeah.
So it's about rules and regulation. Once the rules is there, and then attract the private sector to come in to see what they could do.
Yeah, because we know the big problems are with the states. We have loads of stadiums, but the maintenance.
That's why we will interface with them to make them understand what they have to do. You don't have to build so many stadiums. You can build community centers that are smaller, that are easier to manage, that are easier for the community to use, while you have an elite stadium which is big enough to handle the big sports at some point. Not just to go and be building big buildings everywhere and to say you are building 30,000, 20,000 seater stadium. We are past that age now. Stadium is about TV.
Yeah.
It's about eyeballs in the house.
Sporting arenas is
you
just good
enough. You can have a 5,000 seater stadium.
Look at the MGM Grand Arena. Look at where there was UFC and the rest.
That's arenas. So if you are building a stadium, you should be thinking about that also. Can you host other sports? Can you host other events to generate money? Can it be, what are the things you need to put there that will make it a multi-purpose arena, not just dump a stadium that can only play football or
for political rally.
And then we have to stop that.
Yeah.
You build a nice stadium and you go and do a rally there. Where are all the polo fields and the race course pieces that you have to go to the stadium to do a rally? And you kill the grass?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So you have a lot of work to do, particularly with enforcement.
That's why we say we are taking the road less traveled.
We'll see.
So, but the first thing is getting everybody to align to understand that. And many governors are saying, yes, because are taking steps and we will do it.
The National Sports Festival, monitoring it from London, I was a bit impressed. But I was also disappointed with the little teething issues that came out, like when the lights went off, athletes' welfare. Those are things that, with my project management experience, can be dealt with at the planning and organizing phase. What went wrong?
Well, remember, the light went up, but what happened? Light came back within 5 minutes, right? So it's a technical glitch that can happen at any time. For example, the plan B. That's why the light came back under 5 minutes, because the plan B is already there. Even during Paris Olympics, light went off. It was a technical glitch. It's not like somebody that's no light also. The light was been working whole day. It was the last event of the day, in 10,000 meters in the night, middle of the night, late in the night, around 9 p.m. or thereabout. And so what happened was that the light went up, and it's in the middle of the 10,000 meters.
Yeah.
25 laps. They have already done about 15 laps. We decided to stop and start fresh. So they have to run a couple of laps that before they switch up to the next alternative light. But that is the infrastructure deficits that the government is trying to work with. It's not anything to do with the festival on that one. The light was there. Even when you are on generator can have issue. But the issue is that you have a backup. And the backup was there. So that is just a 5 minutes issue. And that's it's not really an issue, to be honest. And even the athletes' welfare, everybody was happy. The athletes were happy. Go and ask, I know for the first time, these athletes were kept in one place.
That's in one venue.
All the athletes were in one location, and there was no complaint. Nobody has.
Some people complain about movements.
No, hold on. Nobody have come in to say, "Oh, the hostel is not good, the mattresses are not good." As you said before, all the food is not good, and everything like that. I saw athletes from other states that went out for their sports within the first week, but they refused to go because they enjoyed their life with the food and everything. I said, "Look, they will stay to the end." Because it was good enough to do that. You get the point to do that. So yes, at times when you have 15,000 people, 10,000 people, or 15,000 people, if you add the officials, the athletes are almost 10,000, and you have to move them. There has to be some delays at times. Even during the Olympics, you find that the bus at times might be a bit late because maybe those kind number of people.
So now, is there
but all those issues is not really
because it will be sad if we see those same issues with Enugu. So is there a document, for instance, from the NSC, I'm talking about monitoring and supervision again, that the NSC can say, these are ways to consolidate on what Ogun State did?
Yes, if you heard about my speech at the closing ceremony, is that we have achieved what we want to achieve, that we want to organize in conjunction with the state the best festival ever that will set a marker going forward. We have always said that. What we are doing is not the end game, just the start game. So we have done the festival that everybody says is the best ever, that everything was looked much, much better than what we used to do before. But to us, it's a marker. Now we have a benchmark for Enugu. Now Enugu knows that the only way they will, even us know that the only way we can say we are succeeding in Enugu is we do something better than Ogun. If we don't do anything better than Ogun, we have failed.
Backwards.
So it's a marker to us to do that. And how are we moving forward? I said it very clearly that we have now got and identified the positives and see how we can build on them to make them much better. We have identified the deficits, and going forward, we will work to see how we can eliminate them. That's the only way you build a better festival, a better sport, and what have you. You must keep improving at every point in time.
That's right.
So we'll do our best, keep improving. The day we finish this our work and move to another place, other people that will come after us will build on what we have done. So every festival must be targeted to be better than the last one. So in that case, we'll see.
We'll keep monitoring the progress we'll make with that. Let's talk football now. That's the king of sports in Nigeria. Did we make a mistake employing Eric Chelle?
No, I think everybody is saying if we have had this guy earlier, probably we would not have been in the place where we are. Remember, Eric Chelle came in at a time when already the team had drifted as part of the qualification. It's already a difficult situation. 4 games played with only how many points? I think
2 draws.
Is it 3?
Yeah, 3 points.
3 draws, 1 loss. So 4 games played with only 3 points. So out of 12, you have got only 3 points. And Chelle came in, the first match we play, everybody sees the focus. This is where we are going. When Rwanda, the second match against Zimbabwe, everybody knew that day was just not our day. Nothing to do with the coach or what have you. We could have scored 10, 15 goals that day. 42 plays we did in the 18 box. We got the goal, and last minute we gave them the equalizer. It's painful, football, but at least, okay. Eric Chelle did 2 games and get 4 points. The last, before him, we have done 4 games and got only 3 points. That's some progress. So now is to refocus on the less of the qualifiers. The commission working with the NFL to make sure we provide all the enablers for the coach and the team to succeed, because we still, with the look of things, it's still in our hands. If we, based on the disciplinary issues, that's surely going to be decided very soon. If we win by those disciplinary issues went the way everybody thinks it should go, because we too as Nigeria have suffered that fate when we use a player with 2 yellow cards. So if that happens, it means the next 4 games is still in our hands. We don't need to carry any calculator. Win your next 4 games and you qualify. If that's
are we going to win? Because that's a political battle with sports, and we know this is South Africa we're dealing with. Are we positioned?
It doesn't matter. We have the best players in Africa. Everybody knows that, right?
So I'm talking about that points deduction that we're expecting to happen.
No. It's a rules are rules. It's not about Africa. It's FIFA. This is nothing to do with Africa, also Africa, or to rules are rules. If you do this is what happened. There is no excuse about it. There's not any 2 years about it. Otherwise, we can go and field any player and claim error, claim we are forgotten. The rules are rules. It's not about the rules are self-applicable. If you made that error, you made that error. So the only thing that will not happen is it's confirmed that they didn't do the error. But everybody knows they did the error. Even them, they admitted that they did the error. So
we're just
about the process, because normally take a process. Even the last time when Nigeria had that issue, it didn't happen immediately. They have to write you to explain why, what happened, what did you do. They must give you a chance to say your side of the story, to do at least for the process to happen.
But you know what I'm talking about. You've been in football long enough to know that with politics, one cannot be 1 + 1 isn't 2.
No, but the rules are rules. The rules is there. Rules is there. Otherwise, tomorrow you can go and play even a player with a red card and play. So, but let's just leave that aside.
We'll see.
But the issue is that if that happens, it's in our hands.
Yeah,
we win the next 4 games, we are okay, and we have the players that could do that. So the next biggest match is Rwanda, which playing at home. If we are able to get that result, then the match against South Africa is the one that would decide everything. South Africa, because but our players, this is the kind of match our players want to play. Because our players are top players. They really want their backs pushed against the wall. They come out to give you the right result.
Sounds good. You've been involved in football for as long as I know, for over 20 years. So I've been taking a look at countries like Tanzania and what they get with league football, even small DR Congo. Why has it been difficult for us to build an economy through football? We have the talents, we have the people, male and female. What's the blocker?
Well, I don't know, but I run the league before also, so I know what the problem is, and I know, honestly speaking, I know the effort we did when I was there. My colleagues were there to build the league, to make it what it is, taking it to the level where it is. The problems are not even that we in Quantamon were there, are not even like the league. It's toxicity outside. Now we are working. I don't want to say much, because if I say all those things that happen, it will be crazy. As we are working, some people behind the scene are working to bring the house down.
But we need to get those people out of the way, because your sports economy won't work.
Maybe it's destiny that has now brought me now to head the sports sector in Nigeria, because I know the experience, I know that. So if now, for example, as I come in, I said, oh, I want to go and fight the people there or bring the people there down. What am I doing? I'm bringing my job down. So I need to work to support the people that are there to make things happen. So, and exactly what we are trying to do when we are in the league now, we are trying to do it now, because league football thrives basically on television.
That's right.
If you don't resolve the television issue, you are just wasting your time.
No money.
And you know the effort I put when I was there to get the television, MPFL TV, this one, getting NTA to be involved, trying to build, and our television in Nigeria problem is production. If you cannot be able to produce the content of the league, you can play the best football, you can play the best, nothing happens. Look at even the sport festival, the final of the football match. Have you seen the video?
Yeah.
About 10,000, 15,000 people in the stadium, beautiful football.
It was good.
So assuming you have that week in, week out. The league have taken.
And then the whole state won.
The whole state won. So it's about resolving those key issues. If we don't resolve that, part of the reason why I'm in London is also speaking, like, for example, I'm speaking to IMG tomorrow to continue the conversation that has been starting, to get the experts that will come and help us to break this production issue. If you check the budget of the Sports Commission, there's already funding that has been put to see how we can revamp our production capabilities. It's there. And a few months ago, myself, DG NTA, DG FRCN, DG NBC were in Paris to discuss with Thomson Broadcast, who are the original suppliers of all the sports broadcast equipment in Nigeria, the 6 OV vans and everything, to see how they can come and get to the revamp. Before I just left Nigeria, they were in Nigeria last week. I actually left them in Nigeria. They were in the sports ministry, they were with me. We went around to review what we have at the stadium, the International Broadcast Center, which they built. Some OV vans that are NTA, they are looking at it, because we want to now get those vans ready, train people in Nigeria. So if you can take each OV van to each of the zones of the country as a starting point, train people there, the production cost will be very minimal.
Yeah.
Because the vans are already always like an hour or two away from the match venues.
Sure.
So we start covering all sports, not just football. Every sport activity should be covered live and put it on TV. We were in Paris with the NBC because we had to build our own sports channels. The same way we tried to build the MPFL TV when I was in the league. We had to build dedicated sport channels for Nigeria where we can put all this content to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then we train the people. So that's what drives the league to develop, the revenues to come in. Otherwise, somebody will put money and there will be no revenue. It is TV that will drive you to give you revenue from TV. It is TV that will drive.
But it must be attractive.
It is TV that will drive you to get the sponsors to come. It is
Mm-hmm.
TV that will ensure that everybody clean up their venue, everybody make their venue right because they know they are on TV.
Yeah.
Because if you are on TV and you are shit, everybody will see it, and the repercussion will be bad, and everybody can even come after you to cover it up. So you have to start somewhere.
Even officiating.
20 years ago, when they have the Premier League, remember the pitches are muddy a little bit, especially during winter. They wear baggy shirts and everything. But as they are making more revenues from the television, they clean up the system, making it more attractive. That's the way to go in. And then we also have to invest at some point.
Yeah.
As a government to provide the enabling environment. So I also made effort a little bit, and I put some funding that has been put in the budget to support the league in putting the infrastructure needed or clean up some of the venues to get it right. The investment we are doing in the infrastructure is basically for the league to kick up and the other sports to kick up. And we managed to say that, look, there is no any national infrastructure or state infrastructure. Every infrastructure of sports is for everybody in Nigeria.
Yeah.
If now the Akwa State government that have built the Guzo Fabio Stadium, is it only for Akwa people? Super Eagles play there. So we as a government can intervene and work with the Akwa State government to make the stadium better. So we as a federal government can work with any state to intervene, to partner, bring private sector, bring our investment, bring that investment to make that sporting infrastructure better. So at the end of the day, if that is better, it supports the growth of sport, not just the football league to do that. If you go to America, most of the sporting infrastructure are built by local governments, local councils, right? Or counties, whatever. They build it and hand it over to the sporting authorities to work with.
Mm-hmm.
The London Stadium, for example, that was built before and handed over to West Ham.
True.
The Man City Stadium is also Man City Olympics will also, I think, was the Commonwealth Games that were hosted some years back before they were given the stadium. So, and now is serving the whole country. So we have to all do that. Work to fix the TV, which we are working. Work to fix the infrastructure, which we are not. And then the rest is just cosmetic to make it look attractive, to make it better. Beautiful football. You have been doing highlights with the league yourself, and you can see some of the beautiful goals that you have been highlighting for the week. Assuming those are live on TV,
I know,
and making people to see it. So we have not built our sports back to the hearts and minds of the people. So when we say we have to reset, when we say we have to build the sports economy driven by domestic football. Once the football is sorted, the league football is working well. Other sports is easier for them to key in.
Sounds good. That sounds good. Sounds good. Let's go to the grassroots, and I'm sure with the initiative you talked about, there's a place for that. That is the foundation, the basics. How much importance are we placing on the grassroots sports?
Very, very high importance. From the president to us, we are putting a lot of importance to it to show you how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu take it very seriously. He even appointed a senior special assistant on grassroots sports, who is now working through me at the commission. So we are working together on that. And he's helping us also doing with that. And then also part of our four projected objectives is grassroots sports and corner school sports. So we are going back to the basics to make sure that we bring back the grassroots sport, which is anchored on school sports, as it used to be before. So school sports is fundamental to what we are going to do. And if you have followed what we have done recently, so far, we have been interfacing with the Federal Ministry of Education.
Good.
Trying to bring school sports back to what it is, both from the tertiary institution, secondary school level, and primary school level. I've got the opportunity working with the Minister of Education to address the vice chancellors, to address the rectors, and the provost of College of Education and Polytechnics, tell them the importance of what they need to go out to do their school sports. And then we have now come up with the system of how to get the school sports back on track on a very sustainable and an organized way. We say we are going to create what we call the centers of excellence. So we said the objectives for each zone of the country, the 6 zones, will take at least one university to turn it into a center of excellence for sports. So if that university identified, we will now work with that university. We will bring the our own support from the both private sector and the government to build, to support and repair some of the sporting infrastructure. We will bring some of the technical people that they will go to those universities to be training the athletes that we have in that school and everything like that. And so any athletes we find good enough for sports at that level of tertiary institution can go to any school or that school. And even within the session of school, if we find you good enough, you can easily, because of that system and the involvement of Ministry of Education, transfer from one school to another, from the school that is not on the list to the school that is on the list, so that you can get the proper training while you are also pursuing your educational level. Remember, in the last Olympics, Paris, 38% of the winning medals were won by student athletes.
Yeah.
So we have to just do that. And then we say we'll come down to another level where the secondary school level also, we will take at least one unity school per state. One unity school per state, and also become center of excellence for sports at that level of education. So at that secondary school level, which is like under 18, 19 years old maximum, any student we find in secondary school, 16 years, whatever, at that level, they can also push them to those schools within that state. And we'll also work with the state to provide the coaching, the infrastructure, the training and stuff like that to do that. And then at that level, we'll even pay your parents some stipend. Instead of giving you scholarship, we give you scholarship if you are in the elite level on that level, and we'll also give your parents some stipend for you being in that level. So you see, the secondary school has been sorted also. We want to work with the state government, the subnational, to make sure that every state, at least in each local government, they declare one primary school as center of excellence for sports. So we also work and do the same thing with that. So if you do this doesn't stop the states to also declare secondary schools also within the state at that level, or even their own tertiary institution too at the state, the one they own. So, but if you set the state as a government to do that, then other states to follow and do the same framework. So from that 8 years, 12 years old, when we find you in primary school, you are good enough, we'll go to those schools that are centers of excellence at primary school level, and we give you scholarship, we pay your parents also small stipends, and then from there to the secondary school, from there to the university. So there's a clear pathway. And then in doing that, we are how to bring back the school sports competitions.
That's right.
The principal corps, we are working very closely with the POGA, with the SEGA, with the NUGA, to make sure the universities games are back on track and they are also doing very well to do that. So if you look at even the budget we have this year, we have put small money also to support those competitions. There's budget line for NUGA and everybody, which are never there before. There's also budget line to support sporting infrastructure at tertiary institutions, so that the school of excellence we have, we can support them to start building their sporting infrastructure to do that. And then by the time we do this, we can start going to the private sector and say, please, as your CSR, build this sporting infrastructure in this university. You as your CSR, build this, or your sponsorship or whatever, do that. So there will be clear coordinated way of doing that. And just last week, myself and the Minister of Education, we set up, we integrated a joint committee between the National Sports Commission and the Ministry of Education, who will now work to bring out this vision the way we talk about it. And both myself and the Minister of Education will co-chair that committee. And we have brought just the civil servant from our ministry, from the ministry and the private sector. We are all put together into that committee. Both from our side, we brought some private sector. For the education, we brought some private sector. And also the experts from the ministries on those education to do that. So it's a very strong committee that will work to. So that's the thing we want to do with the grassroots sports to do that. That doesn't mean we'll also not be coordinating, trying to provide the enablers to bring proper academies.
That's where I was going.
Proper academies.
School is education and sports.
Sports. Then also proper academies outside that will also be teaching people sports across all so many sports. So we will work with the Sport Federation and everything to make sure that sports academies are licensed, giving the right support also to not just the way now we see academies on paper, just exploiting the kids and stuff like that. No, proper sports and academies will be given right to do that. Especially now, we also have a vision to set up what we call the Sports Development Fund, There will be funding there that will people, private sector can access, set up their academies and what have you as a business or whatever it is to do that. And then also encourage the private sector, the companies as their CSR, to support these academies and stuff like that. So we have the school sports working and the academies working. But at least no child should have his education compromised.
Yeah.
Because I want to be a sportsman.
Yeah, true.
So your education should be more sustained because you are doing sports.
That's what they do
people in American universities.
Yeah.
Sports give you scholarship to study for free, get paid, and become famous, educated. So why can't you do the same thing?
And you still do school. It doesn't affect your school life. It's very important. I'm going to save this conversation because this one, if we get it right, then we are making progress with our sports economy. So we'll see where we'll go from there. But there is still talks, particularly when I speak to other federations. The complaint is there's still too much attention on football. What are we doing?
I don't think so. Not under our watch.
Tell me what you've done for that sport.
Every sport has benefited. I don't know if you have followed that. Go and ask the federations. Every sport, they have never gotten the kind of support they are getting under our watch. Myself and my director general, OKON-AKPAN, we are supporting all kinds of federations. Between January and today, I think badminton, athletics, swimming, what have you, wrestling, weightlifting, all kinds of sport, even cycling. We've been supporting all sports. They've been doing domestic tournaments. They have also been traveling abroad to participate across Africa and Europe. The competitions are going, and they have all been winning. You can ask them, we are funding them. And that is why we changed the way we do our budget system. Because before, they will wait for until Olympics is 2 months before they start bringing money for Olympics. Now we created a budget line within our budget system. As of today, there's a budget line for Olympic preparation. There's a budget line for Commonwealth preparations. Those funding are not together at least to go to camp. No, it's to be supporting the sporting federations to go to participate across all competition across the world. The ones that are qualified, that are showing they are doing domestic sports to do that. So even last month, the cycling team, including even our lady who was in Paris looking for a bike, they were in Abuja. They trained in our velodrome, and they went to Egypt for a cycling tournament, and they came with about 6-7 gold medal or something like that. Wrestling, we organized, imagine, the African Women Volleyball Club Championship was organized in Abuja. The Customs supported that. We must salute the DG Custom for what he has been doing. In March, we organized even the African Wrestling. The Sport Commission organized it for ECOWAS in Abuja to do that. So we are giving all sports the platform to excel comparatively to what they are doing. And I can tell you, table tennis, we have all supported them to go all over the world for all kinds of tournaments to do that this year. And they said they have never seen anything like that before.
There's so much to talk about, but we'll need to postpone it. But let's wrap up this way. At the end of when you stop being the chairman of the National Sports Commission, when you look back, what is that one legacy that you'd like to leave for you to be remembered with?
That legacy is that we will have put all the strategies to activate the sports economy in Nigeria. And then we are now counting our sports based on the number of jobs, based on contribution to the economy, based on our also credible performances across all competitions in the international tournaments as well. And we have a huge domestic sporting industry working. So that's what we put ourselves. That's what we want to be remembered for. Even if we will not achieve it fully the way we want to achieve it, we'll say we are the ones that put the strategies to get that done. You can see, despite all the hula baloo, what happened when we are running the league, for example, it is the platform we put, it is the benchmark that we put, it is the rules and regulations that we put, it is the way of doing things that we put that are still being used to upscale the league to the next level, which is basically what it's supposed to be.
Thanks so much, Shehu Dikko, for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Whew! Wow. What a journey. Now you see that I'm never wrong when I tell you guys that sports is just 10% on the field, on the pitch, on the court, or wherever action is done. Administration takes about 90%, and that's why we needed to have this conversation. So what do you think? After listening to Shehu Dikko, is sports in Nigeria heading the right way? Are they willing to go? He described it as going the road less traveled. Of course, with league development in Nigeria, I mentioned some external forces, some behind the scenes, power players. They're not making it work. He has to change that. That's what leadership does, And of course, some positives coming for grassroots sports development, particularly the collaboration they have with the Ministry of Education. I keep saying it to sports persons, talent isn't enough. When you put sports and education, then we make a superstar. So shout out to Shehu Dikko. Thank you so much for your time, for speaking to me. And I hope that everything that he talked about, it won't just end with talks. Let's put talks to action. And if we start doing that, maybe, just maybe, Nigeria football will have that turnaround and that transformational change that, we've always yearned for. Thanks so much for your time. If you went the distance with us, then you did great trying to know about sports administration in Nigeria. But don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed. I see your engagement. I'm planning something for the fans big time. I won't let it out yet, but walk with me on this journey. It's the Fun Factory, and I promise you it will be a fun ride. I'll see you around again. That's it.